All maidens of pure heart and unwed hand have been summoned to the royal palace. There, the crown prince shall choose a bride from among you.
A royal ball for all maidens?
You are a peasant. The royal ball is not for you, and no prince will ever notice you.
Please, wait! Do not leave me!
Months had slipped by like a mist in the valley, but Apunanwu still carried the memory of that fateful day in the forest, the moment she had been saved by a mysterious hunter whose eyes had seen both war and wonder. His arms had held her like she was something rare, and his silence had said more than words ever could. She had returned to the woods several times, following broken paths, peering into dense thickets, hoping to hear the snap of a twig or the whisper of his breath in the wind. But each time, the forest remained quiet, indifferent. Perhaps it was just a passing moment, she told herself, a spark not meant to catch fire. Yet, something inside her wouldn't let go. Then one sun-bright afternoon, as she haggled over a spool of thread at the bustling Amugu market, a familiar sound echoed through the air, the rhythmic gong of the town crier. All noise ceased. Merchants paused mid-sale. Women clutched their children close, and every ear leaned in. The town crier raised his staff, his voice rich and commanding.
Hear now, good people of Ugwueze Kingdom. This is a message from His Royal Majesty. All maidens of pure heart and unwed hand have been summoned to the royal palace. On the third Eke day of this moon, a grand ball shall be held. There, the crown prince shall choose a bride from among you.
The market exploded with excitement. The women squealed, traders clapped, and gossip bloomed like wildflowers. Apunanwu stood frozen, her heart thudding like a drum beneath her dress. A royal ball? For all maidens? Excitement tore through her chest as she ran, her feet barely touching the earth. She dashed home, her mind dancing with dreams of golden halls and shining chandeliers. She burst into the house like a thunderclap. Madame Obegeli flinched. "What is the matter with you? Have you gone mad?" Akuna narrowed her eyes and hissed. Ugwueze scoffed. It is the king," Apunanwu panted, her eyes shining. "There is going to be a royal ball for all the maidens of the land." A moment of silence fell. "Come again," Madame Obegeli said sharply. "At the market, the town crier announced it. Every maiden from Ugwueze is to attend. The prince is to choose a bride." Her voice lifted with hope and awe. "They said we must come looking our best. It is happening on the next Eke market day at the palace. I hear it's made of gold." Madame Obegeli's eyes gleamed. She clapped her hands together with a sharp snake-like grin. "Well, that is glorious news indeed." She turned swiftly to her daughters. "Girls, this is our divine moment. This is your entrance into royalty. You must outshine moonlight. You must steal every glance. We will find gowns that rival starlight, and your beauty shall eclipse every other." "Yes, Mama," The girls chimed in dramatic unison. We will dazzle them all. We will float like daffodils and capture his eyes. Apunanwu beamed through the flurry of excitement. Yes, this is such a beautiful chance for us. The room froze. Us? Madame Obiageli asked coldly. Akona and Ugwueze stared daggers at her, venom curling in their veins. I thought the invitation is for all maidens, Apunanwu stammered, her hope flickering. I hope you are not foolish enough to believe that you are going, Akona hissed. Don't be ridiculous, Ugwueze added. You're just a peasant girl. You embarrass the kingdom. Madame Obiageli stood, her figure tall and sharp in the glow of the lantern lights. She walked slowly toward Apunanwu, each step deliberate.
You are an orphan with no title and no right. You don't deserve the prince.
A single tear slipped down Apunanwu's cheek. But the invitation said every maiden. Before she could finish, her stepmother cut in.
You are a peasant. The royal ball is not for you, and no prince will ever notice you.
The words stabbed deeper than any blade ever could. Apunanwu turned and fled. They laughed at her.
Look at her! Peasant.
She ran down the narrow hall, past the grand door she helped maintain, and descended into the damp, crumbling basement that had become her home. There, beneath a cracked wooden beam and the hum of a silence, she collapsed to the floor. Her hands clutched her father's locket, and she wept. Not for the hunter, not for the royal ball, but for every dream she had buried and every light she had dimmed to survive. This was a nightmare, and the worst part, she was wide awake inside it. The sun rose that day like it knew something magical was about to happen. The winds carried whispers through the trees, and the kingdom burst with anticipation. Today was the royal ball. For days leading up to it, the house of Mr. Amadi had been a war zone. Madame Obiageli and her daughters had turned Apunanwu into a living shadow, nothing but a mere pair of legs and hands, running every errand, fetching every thread, oiling every strand of hair and chasing tailors across the city. That useless tailor! My beads are supposed to be sapphire, not sea blue! Akuna had screamed, flinging her half-done gown at Apunanwu. Go back and tell that tailor he has to redo it before nightfall. I won't look like a village goat in front of the prince, Ugwueze added, pointing toward the door with a threatening stare. And Apunanwu, with dust on her feet and sweat lining her neck, she ran. From tailor to tailor, from market to market, she skipped lunch, she nearly fainted. But she returned, always, with a perfect bead, the right lace and the golden threading. By late afternoon, the tailor finally delivered 2 gowns of royal elegance, one in emerald green silk, with cascading beadwork that sparkled in the light like crushed jewels. The other in bold crimson chiffon with gold embroidery, winding down like a dragon's breath across the bodies. The girls squealed. "Mama, look at us!" They chorused, twirling like wild leaves in a storm. Their heels clicked on the marble. Their earrings jingled like palace bells. Perfumes filled the house, fruity, spicy, too much, all at once. The air became thick with excitement and arrogance. "Ugwueze, pass me the mirror!" "No, give me the comb!" "No, it's mine! Get your own!" The girls stomped and tripped over each other, dragging satin, fixing lashes, pinning hair and stealing glances at themselves every second. It was chaos, glittering chaos. Meanwhile, Apunanwu, still dressed in mother's dress with her sweat-streaking forehead, served water, polished shoes, and adjusted waistbands. Her back ached, her arms burned, but no one noticed, no one cared. And as the palace bells began to toll, their carriage pulled up outside their home. A white chariot trimmed in gold, hearses dressed in matching tassels. The girls trotted out like queens. And just before they mounted the carriage, Madame Obiageli turned to Apunanwu.
Scrub the floors, do the dishes, and prepare a nice meal for us. Do not step an inch out of this house tonight. The prince doesn't want a beggar for a bride. Yes, stay here and cook, dirty peasant.
Apunanwu said nothing. She only watched, eyes hollow, lips trembling, and as they climbed into the carriage, laughing like peacocks drunk on their own feathers. The door slammed, the wheels rolled, and off they galloped to the palace. She stood there, with tears streaming down her sweaty face, her heart aching, and her body tired. The palace of Ugwueze shimmered like a dream pulled down from the stars. Built of ivory stone and crowned with golden domes, its towers touched the sky and caught the moonlight in every facet. Lanterns burned with scented oils. Music from royal flutists floated through the night like silk. Carriages from across the kingdom poured in, one after another, each grander than the last. The air filled with the scent of wealth, rose water, incense, rare perfumes from foreign coasts. Horses with jeweled harnesses trotted down the marble lanes. Nobles and chiefs stepped out in silken robes with golden scepters and lion-head strings. And the women, oh, the women, they arrived draped in opulence. One maiden wore a gown of midnight blue with a trail that sparkled like constellations. Another shimmered in pure silver, her head crowned with coral beads from the Eastern Isles. Their heels were carved from ivory. Their jewelry dripped like rain made of diamonds. Anklets jingled with every step. Bangles clinked as they waved their fans. Their faces were painted like art, brows arched, lips stained with crushed hibiscus, their eyes lined like queens ready for war or love. Excitement bursts like bees in the air. Laughter, flattery, and secrets passed between lace-covered mouths. Inside the great hall, gold chandeliers glowed above. White servants in white silk carried wine in goblets of carved crystal. Every guest moved like they were royalty, even the ones who weren't. But none of them knew what was coming. None of them knew that this night of pomp and pride, was about to be rewritten by a forgotten girl in the shadows. The carriage of Madame Obiageli screeched to a halt in front of the grand palace gate of Ugwueze. Pulled by two restless white horses dressed in silk tassels and silver headgear, the vehicle rocked slightly as the trio inside fought for last-minute touch-ups.
You didn't apply powder. Now your face looks like boiled yam. Now listen, I don't care how you do it. One of you must capture the prince's heart tonight.
Madame Obiageli said to her daughters in a very serious tone. The carriage door swung open. She stepped out and helped each of her daughters out of the carriage. For her, they were royalty, whether they had a title or not. They were her prized possession, and tonight would either make or break them. The courtyard was packed with nobles, guards, and whispers. Music from inside drifted through the air like perfume, and the scent of roasted meats and crushed petals followed their every step. But none of that mattered to Madame Obiageli.
Now listen, both of you. Carry yourselves with elegance and dignity. Not like market women chasing customers. Watch me and learn. Now, let us walk into that room and steal the spotlight.
She then held Ugwueze as they walked up the grand staircase that curled into the palace ballroom like a golden serpent. Ugwueze suddenly missed a step, and her heels caught on her hand, and she stumbled. Ow! She winced.
Better don't disgrace me here, or I will disown you.
Her mother growled between clenched teeth. Akuna followed, trying to mimic her mother's glide. But with each exaggerated step, she teetered dangerously like a drunken flamingo. Her earrings flapped against her cheek, and her perfume puffed out in one unfortunate sneeze.
For God's sake, is there yam between your legs?
Madame Obiageli snapped. But Mama, our shoes are too tight, Ugwueze whimpered.
Then suffer in silence. Pain is beauty, and beauty marries the prince.
As they approached the palace doors, two enormous slabs of wood inlaid with gold and sunstone, they finally composed themselves. The guards opened the doors with ceremonial precision, and inside, a world of splendor awaited. From across the kingdom, beneath the glittering stars and the music echoing faintly in the distance, Apunanwu sat curled up in the basement, a space that had become her cage and her shelter. The night was silent here. The sounds of joy and carriages were like ghosts passing through the cracks in the roof, too distant to touch. She sat on the dusty floor, hugging her knees, still wearing her faded cloth, with nothing but the glow of an old light bulb and the distant memory of her mother's voice. She tried not to cry, but the silence, the kind that fills your ears like cold water, felt heavier than ever tonight.
I should have been at the ball tonight. I should have danced,
she whispered tearfully. Outside, the wind stirred gently. Then something flickered. A shimmer in the air, a sound too soft to name, like a whisper, like a calling. And slowly, the story that had buried her began to stir. The stars blinked above the land of Ugwueze, but in the basement, there was no starlight, only shadows and silence. Unable to bear the weight pressing down on her chest, Apunanwu rose from the floor and slipped out of the mansion like a wind. She passed the sleeping goats and the hen in their roosters. Then she ran through the fields, past the old stream that now ran shallow and sad, until her feet carried her to the edge of the forest, her mother's favorite place. There, she held a tree and broke down in tears. She sobbed, her shoulders cracking with every pain she'd had to endure. She fell to her knees, tears soaking the earth, the cold breeze kissing her cheeks like a long-forgotten lullaby. Her sobs were silent screams for her father, for her mother, for the life she had lost.
I wish you were here, Mama. I miss you so, May Papa.
Then, the bracelet on her wrist trembled. A pulse. She looked down. It was glowing. Faint at first, then stronger, brighter, a sea blue light that wrapped around her wrist like a flame with a heartbeat. The wind stirred, leaves fluttered, the trees groaned low and deep, the sky shimmered faintly overhead, and then lights began to appear, tiny orbs floating like fireflies, glowing in colors too beautiful to name. They circled her. The wind whirled around her, gentle but strong. She gasped, eyes wide, frozen in awe. From within the lights, a woman stepped forth, graceful, glowing, wrapped in the cloak of moonlight and starlace. Her skin was smooth like polished onyx. Her hair twisted high into a crown of silver coils. Her eyes were ageless, deep as the rivers of time. Apunanwu's eyes and mouth hung open. Never had she ever beheld a thing like this.
Apunanwu, daughter of the sun, rise, my child,
she said. Apunanwu rose slowly, her eyes fixed on the otherworldly figure.
But who are you? Are you real? Or is this a dream? I am Wakaego, your godmother. I have watched you since the day you were born.
I promised your mother that I will guide you to your destiny. And now, the time has come.
She touched her forehead with a magic wand and whispered an ancient blessing. In an instant, magic surged to Apunanwu's body. She began to rise, twirling as she ascended slowly. And just then, there was a burst of light, and then she descended. This time, no longer as the Apunanwu she knew. Her old faded dress was gone. In their place was a gown spun from the light of the stars and the fabric of moonlight, a masterpiece of royal pink. The dress flowed like water, hugging her waist like the arms of the ancestors, and glistened with every breath she took. It cascaded right down to her feet, and at its hem, tiny electric blue lights hung onto it like fireflies in the dark, magical and breathtaking. Her eyes sparkled. She looked like royalty born from heaven. But more than that, she felt alive.
You will go to the royal palace for the grand ball tonight,
The godmother said with an air of determination. Apunanwu wanted to be excited, but then she remembered.
But my stepmother and sisters are there. They will punish me,
She said, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and hope.
You are protected by my magic. Not even your own shadow would recognize you tonight.
A shimmering veil, light as a whisper, invisible, formed around her, not to hide her, but to shield her. Her stepmother's hatred, her stepsister's envy, none would pierce it. My shoes are not very good looking, she said, raising up her dress. Godmother thought for a second and then said,
We can't let the prince see these scrawny shoes. We have to fix it.
She sprinkled magic dust on Apunanwu's old rusted shoes, immediately transforming them to the most brilliant crystal shoes ever beheld. Not even the princess of Ugwueze kingdom had seen such, let alone owned it.
Now, let's get you a carriage to convey you to the palace,
Godmother said, turning to the tree as she let out her hand. Tiny light orbs began to wrap around the tree. It shook, the air shifted, the land quaked. Leaves fell, and then came a carriage. But not just any carriage. It shimmered like a dream made real, shaped from emerald and gold, glowing with soft enchantment. The wheels spun with vines of silver, and the horses were not ordinary beasts. They were white stallions with eyes like burning coals and manes of midnight blue. Their hooves barely touched the ground.
It will take you to the palace of Ugwueze,
where your story will begin anew.
Apunanwu hesitated, eyes brimming with wonder. Surely all this feels so good to be true. I don't think he's going to last, she said.
At the peak of midnight, all of this will fade.
You must leave before the last stroke of the clock. Do you understand?
She nodded.
Thank you, Godmother. Thank you for everything.
Now, go, child. Go and inherit your destiny. The future is yours.
She vanished with a stroke. Apunanwu walked to the carriage as the door magically slid open, her gown rustling like music. The moment she sat, the horses roared and galloped forward. The trees parted, the wind danced, and through the sleeping village and starlit road of Ugwueze, a vision of light raced towards its destiny. The forgotten girl was on her way to the palace, and the night would never be the same. The palace of Ugwueze had never gleamed brighter than it did that night. Beneath the towering domes and ivory columns, the great courtyard pulsed with music and majesty. Lanterns danced in the air like glowing spirits, and golden flames lined the marble steps leading into the grand hall of kings. Inside, the air shimmered with perfume and pride. Jewels clinked with every turn of a noble's head. Laughter echoed like winged chimes. Feathers, laces, and gold swirled as women spun in circles, their gowns flowing like water down the cliff of luxury. And at the far end of the hall, the prince sat in quiet unrest. Prince Obinna, regal in his deep royal red robe, embroidered with a royal eagle, his crown resting lightly on his head, scanned the sea of faces, but not one stirred his soul.
Are you expecting anyone in particular, son?
No.
His mother smiled knowingly. She knew it was the same girl he was waiting for. What other reason would he ignore all the dashing beauty that graced his invitation? Prince Obinna shifted uncomfortably in his seat. The ball had begun, yet no sign of her. Would she come? He wondered. Then, outside, the drums shifted. A thunderous rumble sounded through the ground. The chatter froze. The strings stilled. Even the flutes quieted. She descended the stairs like she floated on air. Her gown rippled with every step, like starlight sliding across water, shining with impossible brilliance. Her earrings dangled like captured fireflies. Her skin glowed, not with powder or polish, but with purpose. Her steps were determined and intentional. People turned, people stared. "Who is that?" they whispered. Every head turned toward the massive palace doors, and there, through the golden arch, she appeared. Apunanwu, the sun's daughter, not as a girl the world would forget. The veil of enchantment around her gave her an otherworldly elegance. Her aura silenced the wind. Gasps echoed across the marble. Even Madame Obiageli and her daughters turned, jaws slack, eyes stretched wide. Akuna felt naked in her gown. Ugwueze clutched her belly as if she was pregnant.
That dress is so beautiful. Who is that and where is she from?
She asked no one in particular. Prince Obinna stood, his breath caught. And as her eyes met his across the hall, the world slowed. The drums returned, slow, steady, echoing the beats of two hearts aligned by fates. Without hesitation, the prince descended the stairs, crossed the floor, ignoring the whispers, ignoring the protocol, ignoring the stairs. As he walked, she also approached. He stopped right in front of her.
It is you, the girl who refused to tell me her name.
His eyes scanned her all over. He was awestruck. He was gobsmacked. He was absolutely mesmerized. Apunanwu immediately recognized him as the hunter that saved her life. Her heart pounded. He was a prince? This was certainly a dream. She curtsied with a grace that shamed royalty.
Yes, my prince. It is I. Thank you for saving my life in the forest.
Forgive me for running off like that. It was not intentional.
She said softly, her voice the music his soul had ached for. He smiled.
I am happy you came tonight. May I have this dance?
The prince asked gracefully. And as the musicians began to play once more, the prince took her hand and led her to the center of the hall. The crowd parted like silk around the blade, making room for a moment the universe had long written before they were born. The atmosphere shifted. Soft colors illuminated the room. They danced. She glided with elegance no one had ever seen. Her laughter was soft, her eyes aglow. Her dress sparkled like clusters of galaxies. And the prince, he laughed like a boy, like he hadn't worn a crown since he was born. And in that moment, beneath the chandeliers of sunstone and moonlight, everyone knew their future queen had arrived. But the clock was ticking. This is just the beginning. Hit that subscribe button and turn on your bell notifications so you'll be aware when the last part of this amazing story drops. Don't forget to check out other videos on my channel, and I promise you will not be disappointed. See you in my next one, and stay fabulous.